Good news, everyone.
I think I've basically banned myself from being able to even interact with two entire NPCs that as in my universe we don't even know exist yet. Which, this is one of those weird things where, like, whenever I point out in other games, I'll be like, Dark Souls does it, and you give it a pass when Dark Souls does it. And I'm like, no, I fucking don't. Do you pay attention? Do you pay any attention at all? God damn. Open your eyes and your ears and whatnot. But we're gonna double check to be sure. Because I gotta be sure before we move forward, but so one of them I'm pretty sure is gone already. I think this one's gone too. Let's see, did I ascend my pyromancy flame? Yep, it's plus 10. So when you hit plus 10 pyromancy flame, there's supposed to be a pyromancy vendor that's like the end game pyromancy vendor that spawns. And there's problems with that. One of which is if you kill the bed of chaos before she spawns, she will never spawn. Which makes some sense in context, in that I guess she's the one that accidentally made the bed of chaos, so like it has a tie to her story and like stuff like that. Like, you know, sure, why not? But as a player, you're like, this kind of an important NPC for my entire quest line, and you kind of didn't, you blindsided me with it. So I've got a few issues here with this quest line. One of which is that she spawns when you ascend a pyromancy flame to plus 10, which is like on the list of things that cause stuff to happen in Dark Souls is one of the weirder conditions that I've ever seen. A lot of the NPCs in these games spawn because you interact with a certain person, or you progress to a certain point, and then they show up in spots on the map. Dark Souls 2 has some kind of annoying things where you, with like Lucatiel and so on, you have to play like whack-a-mole with them a little bit, which is that they spawn in certain locations in a specific order, and you have to keep finding them in those locations before going on too fast, or you'll miss their summon signs, and if you don't summon them for all the places they can be summoned for, then they ultimately will not survive, and they'll go hollow or disappear. If actually, oh wait, no, going hollow is the good ending, quote unquote, of finding them. They just outright disappear if you don't finish the quest line by finding them at a bunch of arbitrary locations that you largely need a guide to find to an extent. So you've noticed I've checked here multiple times. It's either here or the next pillar over. Yeah, I don't think she's here. I think it's this one, and she's gone. Shit. Alright, well, that's a pretty hard stop on my pyromancies for this playthrough. Yep, she's gone. So she's tied to the bed of chaos, so she won't spawn if you kill the bed of chaos before you meet her. You meet her by getting to level 10 pyromancy flame, and then arbitrarily checking Blighttown for her, which is weird in its own right. So you have to specifically upgrade your pyromancy all the way to level 10, which is pretty expensive. And then you have to come here specifically and check that specific spot and notice her in order to find that she even exists in the first place. It's really odd. It's just kind of odd, like, across the board, really. And if you don't find her in time, then she, like, ceases to exist, and you never get to use her. Alright, so yeah, that happened. So the bad news is if he asked me a question last time that was related to the fact that I had a pyromancy that was specific to her because I had a chaos pyromancy. If you say the wrong answer, he'll disappear, and you'll find him in Blighttown hollowed. Whew. So that was rough. That was almost a 3-for-1 deal where I would have deleted my ability to get access to all 3 pyromancy vendors in one episode, which was remarkable. One of them was intentional. I killed the Chaos Witch, or whatever she's called, the Chaos Sister, to get her Firekeeper soul. Like, that was on purpose. Because I want the Firekeeper souls to upgrade my Estus flask. Currently, I have 4 of the 7. You can get 7 per playthrough to upgrade your Estus flask up to +7. A lot of people don't use the one for Firelink Shrine because people like Firelink Shrine. Also, you can't use all of them, I guess, because you can't use all 7 of them because you can only use them with... you get 3 of them from killing currently alive firekeepers, and you have to spend them at a firekeeper, so I guess you can only get +6 anyway. So people usually keep this one alive because she doesn't attack you directly, and she's Firelink Shrine, and people like Firelink Shrine, and she's just this poor girl trapped in there and everything. So you have to keep giving her all the bonfires, all the firekeeper souls you find to keep upgrading your Estus flask so that it can heal for more per heal, which is the only way to keep up with the fact that you're upgrading your health and so on. Otherwise, you have a really gimpy Estus flask that only heals like 200 or 300 health. Whereas, how much health do I have now? 1,300. So like, it's a really terrible flask if you don't upgrade it. So you need those things. You get 4 in the open world, and you get 3 from the 3 firekeepers. 2 of which you can kill. 1 of which you have to manually kill on purpose and just decide to murder. The other one you have to piss off and it'll attack you. Or you can attack it on sight, I guess. And then this one, Lautrec kills, and you have to go get it back from him. So I killed Quaelag's sister on purpose because she's kind of a nightmare to keep alive in the first place. Not mechanically, she's actually one of the easiest people to keep alive because nothing happens to her ever. But the idea of her being kept alive is a kind of a weird monster scenario to begin with. That's kind of an issue. I guess I'll just head back down. I guess I'm just gonna go do New Londo. Might as well. So I killed her to upgrade my flask because I want it to be stronger. And but with her, with that you lose her faction and NG, the parasite guy, and they're one of the pyromancer vendors, but also well, they're basically just one of the pyromancy vendors, really. There's a few, they give you a few, but they're the ones I'm somewhat less into, like making a poison mist and stuff like that. There's some things that they're effective against, but it's not the best usually for me. I'm really bummed out to lose her, though, because she gave me the chaos that whoever she is, Quaelana is the one that's never going to appear. And Quaelana gives you the chaos pyromancies, which are the ones that are really effective offensive ones that shoot lava and everything, and so we're not going to get that. That sucks. It can be frustrating because if you want to do a perfect run of these games where you do everything right with the NPCs and your build and everything, you just have to play them with your, like, glued to a Wikipedia page that tells you how to play the game, which is a bummer because that's the last way I want to play any game, which I've said plenty of times about several games. Hi, Crestfallen! I didn't know you were here. I was just thinking about you because the whole thing where you... Oh, that was one hit. There he goes. That was the guy that was well, the Crestfallen guy from the Firelink Shrine. He went hollow and he attacked me. That wasn't very nice. No, not even some dialogue. He just came after me. When I played this game in 2011 with Andrew, we attacked him in Firelink, and he was unstoppably difficult. It was impossible. It was not a difficulty we were prepared for. It was a mistake. We were not ready for the kind of shit that was going to happen to us there. There you go. That's what I need. The transient curse. I don't think we have to worry about poison here. We need the transient curse because it allows us to attack ghosts. Without that, we can't fight them, and then we're SOL for this whole zone full of ghosts. So yeah, I've lost the chaos pyromancies now because I did Bed of Chaos too early. So that's frustrating because as a normal player, you wouldn't even know that she exists, so you wouldn't even know that you could miss out on her in the first place or why she might be important. It's just an entire NPC never exists in your world for reasons that are completely opaque to the player. The other thing that I did is I placed the Lord Vessel, which is weird, because like I'm trying to analyze how baffling that is. So you beat Ornstein and Smo, you get the Lord Vessel, and they're like, go get the 4 Lord Souls. And yet, despite the fact that the 4 Lord Souls are in these 4 different directions, yes, technically, this one that I'm going at right now does not require you to put the Lord Vessel down because there's not a yellow barrier in the way. But like, that's clearly the end game. You beat ONS, you place the Lord Vessel, you get the 4 Lord Souls, you place them, you beat Gwyn. That's the whole end track. And yet they expect you to refuse to place the Lord Vessel, come here, and then fight your way through all of New Londo while refusing to place the Lord Vessel, even though when you go back to Firelink, that guy's gonna be like, hey, you want to place the Lord Vessel? And you're supposed to just ignore him, come here, beat the boss of this zone, then go back, and then when you beat the boss, there will be a brand new NPC that only exists because you didn't place the Lord Vessel. Otherwise, if you place the Lord Vessel, he gets mad at you, and he won't appear for you. It's like, come on, man. It's especially frustrating because these NPCs seem to have, like, goals in their lives. Like, they want to do something, right? Like Darkstalker Kath or whatever, he has, like, a plan, and he wants you to be part of that plan. And, like, Quailana wants, like, something to happen with, like, the Bed of Chaos or something. Like, they're not just, like, passively sitting around doing nothing. They presumably want some end goal to happen, right? But then they weirdly just don't appear for you and don't come to you to inform you of their plan. Hey, it's the Firekeeper Soul. It's like, it kind of makes everyone in the universe kind of seem like a jackass in their own right. Oop, that's a lot of transient curse. There we go, keep that equipped. If that lights up, that means the transient curse is over. And I need to use it again. Otherwise, we won't be able to attack the people here. And Darkstalker Kath is kind of neat. In 2013 I did a very wiki heavy playthrough where I was just looking up everything along the way constantly to try to do exactly what I wanted to do. And in that one I saved Solaire, but instead of doing it by not well, I think I also didn't talk to him. I did like I did every little safeguard I could, but I specifically did the thing where you offer 40 humanity to the Chaos Witch, the Quelax sister, the spider lady I just killed. I joined their covenant and raised to the maximum rank of the covenant. And as you're rising through it, you gain access to some pyromancies and whatnot, I think. But when you hit maximum rank, that one door that leads to the Sunlight Maggot opens up. And that's your grand reward. And I got them the worst way, which is that I killed the Four Kings. I actually killed the Four Kings at like the beginning of the playthrough when I was and it was a bad idea because I made it way too hard. Traction does not move. And then after I killed the Four Kings really early in the playthrough, I joined the Darkstalker Kath's covenant and I got his humanity sucking glove, and I went around and sucked humanities out of NPCs throughout the game, including Siegmeyer's daughter, which I think she's worth like 8. You can just do it over and over again before she finally stops giving you more humanity. So it's really brutal and horrible. You just keep like sucking humanity out of her over and over again. Oh, I thought that was one of the enemy ghosts. And I did all that just to save our good boy Solaire. But all that was only possible because I was staring at Wikipedia pages to figure out how to play the game, because the game is so bizarre and opaque. And I like that they lessened that a bit in other games. That's fucking creepy. But it never went away. I feel like Bloodborne might be the most digestible game as far as NPC interactions go, but they've all got some weird ones. Like Mephistopheles is an entirely secret character in Demon's Souls. But even then, that's at least a character that only exists because they have a specifically evil quest line, so they show up to you when you're doing evil things already, essentially, to add on to that. It's like the Dark Brotherhood of the Elder Scrolls games. Dark Souls 2 is mostly a series of NPCs that show up in the world that you will likely discover relatively naturally, but then they ping-pong around into a bunch of somewhat arbitrary spots, and they're kind of hard to track down. And then somewhat annoyingly, they restrict you to a specific playstyle because you have to summon them to help you in boss fights, and if you don't, then you miss out on their storylines, which, as somebody who likes to do a YouTube series where I beat the bosses myself in many cases, it's kind of frustrating to be required to summon them, even though that is kind of a neat idea for a storyline. Get off of me. It is a neat idea to be like, we're all cooperating with each other, and that's why like, since we're all cooperating with each other, that's why I got to see the rest of my story. Like, that is kind of neat. I do like some of that. It's just a bit frustrating that it directly butts its head against what some people want out of the game. But at least the Dark Souls 2 NPC interactions make a bit more sense usually. And they even innovated in some cool ways by having interesting things like the Crichton and other guy encounter, where you just walk into the middle of the scene playing out and you're like, oh, what do I do? The one that's kind of like Lautrec versus Patches a bit. Dark Souls 3 is kind of a middle ground, like it always is in every time you talk about it. And it's like that for NPCs a bit too. There's some stuff going on, like trying to follow the storylines of like people like Siegward that is largely followable. But there's a lot of really weird, arcane, arbitrary shit that's really strange. Hi there. Uh-oh. I'm not transient. There we go. Item! Oh, even more. How did I miss that? Wasn't I here? Wasn't I here earlier? I was. Shit, where was that ladder? I'm not always great at parsing this map. Yeah, I have mixed feelings about NPC interactions in Dark Souls games. There's some cool elements to it, like knowing that, like, I like the fact that in Dark Souls 3, there's a series of NPCs that all have, like, a story going on among them, and meaningful interactions with each other that is independent of you, largely, and you can only impact it indirectly. It's just got that problem, that kind of EVE Online problem, where, like, it's not really that interesting to play. It's only really interesting to read about separately. Where it's like, oh, great, haha, yeah, it's fun to read the news article about that fun scenario that happened once every few months in EVE Online. Or like, haha, yeah, that's what was going on in the game I played. I read an article that this video or article or Wikipedia page nicely explains why Siegmeyer died in my game, or Siegward died in my game. Like it's super mixed feelings. Where like I feel like the general mysteriousness of the game can inflate how cool some of the bosses are. I feel like it makes it just kind of hard to care about many of the NPCs, by contrast. And your ability to care is largely not blind friendly. Because like by the time you finally understand an NPC's motivations and personality and what their goal is, you're like on your third playthrough of the game, and you've watched a video about how to do their quest line, or read. I can't pick that up, can I? It's floating. I can't get that. Like you've had to research it basically. And that's just kind of annoying. Hey there. Because discovering these things for yourself would be really cool, but the ability for the average player to discover a lot of these things on their own, I think, is kind of gone. And so it's a lot of just like learning about the stuff separately and then coming back to like, ah, huh, yeah, that is kind of neat. Which is, I just don't like that as much. I just don't like it as much. And I say that while I say that Dark Souls is like one of my favorite franchises ever made. Like, I love these games a lot. But that doesn't mean that I, like, think that that's the best way to do everything. Like, I'll never claim that these games are the best way to do everything that they do. But people act like that because, like, you like Dark Souls is the first fucking comeback I hear whenever I criticize anything ever. It's like, well, Dark Souls did something like that in that thing. That means you have to like this game, too. And I'm like, I didn't even like it when Dark Souls did it, you fucks. Pay attention.
Well, this is a surprise. I get few visitors. Save for ghosts, you have the Lord Vessel. Very impressive. I know exactly what your intentions are. You seek the four kings whom I guard over. This is the key to the seal. The four kings slumber in the deepest chamber of the ruins. Use this key to break the seal and open the floodgates. Oh, and do not forget, the Darkwraiths reside in a dark void called the Abyss. But the Abyss is no place for ordinary mortals. Although, long ago, the knight Artorias traversed the Abyss. If you can find him and learn from him, the Abyss may prove surmountable. Hello there. What is it? The key to the seal is now in your hands. I will help you in any way possible.
Ah, he sells more curse. I've got 10 of them already though, so we're doing alright there.
New Londo was sacrificed to contain the Darkwraiths. Mark my words, the Darkwraiths are the enemies of man and any living thing that has a soul. They were never meant to roam again. New Londo was sacrificed.
Goodbye, buddy. I didn't even have to do a murder on you this time. Hooray! Yeah, the way to do Four Kings really early. Looks like you can do it because it is possible to come here with the Lord Vessel and have not placed the Lord Vessel yet, but have it. And if you have the Lord Vessel, he'll let you in. But if you want to do Four Kings really early, you can just murder him. If you just murder him, he drops the item you need to continue. You also have to have already defeated Sif, though, so that you can have the ability to survive the drop into the boss fight chamber. I can't attack them, can I? Nope. There's a few steps, but it's possible. And those kind of tricks I do like. That stuff being a secret, that's cool. That's fine. I'm totally cool with there being weird, like, there are weird alternate routes through a game that are only possible through arcane player knowledge. That stuff's fine. It's just if you do that with your storytelling, then you, it's not going to actually, you're not going to necessarily feel things most of the time from the story, which is usually the reason people tell stories, is to make people feel things. That's usually the entire reason stories exist. And so if you rob your stories of all feeling, then usually they kind of lose their purpose for existing to an extent. And that's what I find frustrating about them doing that. Got a little turned around now. Am I still above? No, I am below the hole. Okay. Oh, don't do that. Don't do that. That was a dead end, wasn't it? Oh. I should double check that zone real quick. I think there's like an item. Green Titanite shard. And that's it. What's that sign say? Be wary of fall. I think that's one of those spots where if you try to walk across it, your character like just eats shit. Like he just like slides weird and goes flying to his death. Boy, does this place get less chaotic when you can just one-shot every enemy. It's a very real change of pace for the zone. Humanity. There's an item over there. There we go. The rare ring of sacrifice. The one that saves you from curses. Don't get a lot of use out of ring of sacrifices. Just because I'm usually not in the situation where it'd be so important to do it, and the consequences of death are not something I'm usually very afraid of. But they're there to help. I don't think I can make that jump. Whoop! That wasn't that damaging. I usually don't need them, but boy is that an abusable ring in Dark Souls 2. Because in Dark Souls 2, you could just keep breaking and repairing the same ring of sacrifice over and over again. And that is incredibly abusable. Here's the key. Hey, how you doing there, weird, squishy part of New Londo? Ew. Gross. Squishy New Londo. Now that opens. Is there more up here, though? What's up here? Not expired yet. Hey there. Hey there. An above view. One brief glance to be a chance to be up here. The camera doesn't zoom out enough to really get a good look, though. The Ring of Sacrifice was a cowardly thing you could use in Dark Souls 2, because you could... Yeah, I think it cost 2,000 souls to repair, but it would break whenever you died. And it had really important effects, because when you died, it removed all consequences of death aside from the part where you go back to the bonfire. It was super powerful. Because that meant you wouldn't lose your souls, which meant that as you appeared back at your bonfire, you could warp to not Firelink, whatever they called it in that game. You could link back to your hometown area and just repair your ring immediately. All your souls would still be on you, and you would not lose health upon death, so you wouldn't have to deal with that game's equivalent of humanity. And all you had to deal with was a 2,000 soul tax each time you died. Hey, buddy. It's not exclusively a coward thing, though. It's also a way of managing resources in a way that game kind of punishes you if you don't. Because there's a kind of tough... much like how there's a humanity-based thing in Covenant in this game, there's basically a humanity-based Covenant in that game in a way. There's a whole Covenant, I think it's the Abyss Covenant, where you have to do these gauntlets in order to proceed. And in order to survive the gauntlet, in order to win the gauntlet, you basically have to... I think you have to be a human... You have to be in full human form to even enter, I believe. Which means you have to use a human effigy. That's that game's equivalent of humanities. And if you die, then you have to use another one, just over and over again. So, like, being able to counteract the effects of the Ring of Sacrifice makes it so it's way more possible if you're struggling to keep that resource up. Because if you run out, you're just fucked. Hi, everybody. Could I have a bonfire, please? Pretty, please? Hi. How do you do, sir? God, that's weird to watch. It's so weird to watch them just melt. Like, he's just dead. God damn. So these are all the members of Darkstalker Kath's Covenant, as far as I can tell. They've got this nasty glove, and they can grab you in the face and rip a humanity right out of you. I don't have any to take right now, but they can. I think it's kind of a callback of sorts to Demon Souls, with the False King Alent would grapple you, and his grab attack would rip a level out of you. He would de-level you. You would lose a level. Look at his freaky mask. And his glove actually creates like a barrier of sorts. God damn. Whoa, gah. I think he just tried to do it. Fuck. That's a long-range attack. Speaking of callbacks, those of you that saw me play, Shadow Tower might recognize this guy. I think this is almost verbatim an enemy in Shadow Tower. The weird giant face blob.